Opeth fans, the Opeth discography continues with my favorite Opeth album, probably of all time. A lot of you seem surprised. A lot of you seem really surprised, because no, we're not talking about Blackwater Park. Strangely enough, Blackwater Park was my favorite Opeth release for a long time for personal reasons, and also because it is just that damn good of an album. It's exceptionally perfect. However, I would probably have to put it a close second to the album that I'm about to review, and that is the album directly previous to it, Still Life. Words actually can't accurately articulate my feelings about this particular release, and as I said, of course, before, this wasn't my favorite Opeth release at first. It was, in fact, one that I listened to very rarely. And once I gave the full entire record a dedicated spin, my lord, did my opinion change on a very, very quick and swift fashion. This is a fantastic release, and it's also one of the most debated releases of Opeth's career, mainly because, like My Arms, Your Hearse, this is an album that certainly resembles a concept album. And like I said, this is something that has been debated for a certain period of time. A lot of people will say that this is a concept album, while other people will not be as convinced. I mean, it definitely seems to tell a story about a girl by the name of Melinda, which you could say is the person that's on the cover. The funny thing about this is that you almost see a certain Virgin Mary type thing on the cover, maybe perhaps a modern day exploit of it. Perhaps instead of going to a gigantic tomb where the body of Jesus was buried, she's going to a traditional graveyard that's just right next to a reflecting pool. However, Melinda is certainly not whatsoever in the similar format here. It's definitely not any sort of religious apropos whatsoever. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite of this. This is something that that really speaks of a romance, a definite confrontation between two lovers, so to speak. This is a massive release. This is a fantastic release, and this is the first release that is really just in stunning audio format. For the first three, there was a little bit more of a rough edge to it. You kind of could sense a little bit of a black metal style recording to it. However, with Still Life, this is abandoned for a cleaner sound, a very awesome sound, so to speak. This is something where you can hear each and every dedicated tone. Now, why do I love this release more than any other? Well, I'm about to tell you. This is a release that has moments, it has introductory riffs, it has riffs that are laced within the songs that will get stuck into your head and remain there permanently. This is not the reason alone why I love this album, however, this is certainly an element of it in which definitely helped propel it to the top in a quicker fashion. There are songs on here that I could listen to over and over again. There are parts of songs that I could listen over and over again. I can make mixes of particular points. It's almost like if you were to have a progressive band release songs that have 5 parts and release all 5 parts as individual tracks. You could listen to one particular track of the 5 over and over again, or you could listen to the whole entire thing, and either way you're going to have a monumental, bombastic, incredible experience. Now this starts off with The More, which is a fantastic opening song. This is another one of those songs that at first still was somewhat, for me, a little bit difficult to get into, and I'm not quite sure why, kind of like with Advent off the Morning Rise disc, because now I love this track. There are usually 1 or 2 songs with any band's discography that I'm kind of iffy about, and eventually I come around. I mean, this is something that was easy for me to come around with, especially whenever you listen to the album from front to back. It becomes a lot more of an easy thing to do. It launches right into Godheads Lament directly after that, and this is what I mean. These are the songs where, bam, pow, right in the kisser, you immediately get that sense that this is going to be one of those records where everything's going to stick in your head, it's going to stick out, it's going to really be kind of what you would consider to be maybe a black sheep of the Opeth discography family. However, instead of it being a negative, it's an exceptional positive. If black sheeps were meant to be a positive metaphor, then this is definitely one that would illuminate it in a fantastic format. I mean, just think about it. Think about the part right in the middle. Thought I could not leave this place on this imminent day. As I reach the final dawn to what's gone astray, what would they care if I did say no one would know? No. What would they care if I did say no one should know? No. And they repeat it again. This is a hypnotic. It's another one of those parts of one of their songs that you could play over and over again until you're blue in the face, and it will still amaze you each and every time that you listen to it. Usually with songs, the one thing that I notice, the one problem that I have the most, is that if I listen to it enough, eventually gets old. The one reason why Opeth is one of my favorite bands of all time, if not the #1 top spot, is that those moments never come. I could literally spend a whole entire night dedicating and obsessing over one particular part of just one of their songs. And it would not get old to me. It would not be boring to me. It would be something that would be a landmark, monumental, earth-changing, earth-shattering moment to me. It would be like a revelation. It would be like a eureka moment, so to speak. Like finding a new road to travel down, so to speak, which is something that I also love to do. Perhaps this is the reason why I love reflective driving, because much like reflective driving, reflective listening gives you the opportunity to really sense the emotion behind the writing itself, which definitely fits considering I'm also a writer. But after Godheads Lament, we go right into the first of a couple of melodic tracks on this record, which is Benighted. This one is done completely cleanly by Mikkel, and it's a fantastic track. A lot of people may not like this song because it's, you know, you're going from two songs that definitely are in your face, kick your ass, have a couple of beautiful moments in it, to one that is specifically just supposed to be a lighter moment, a more beautiful moment of this particular album. And in a concept disc, certainly this is something that is required, especially one that involves the concept or idea of any sort of love whatsoever, because you definitely need to convey that element. You have to convey that feeling whatsoever, in some form. And what better way to do that than to have a track that definitely borders on romantic? Then you go into Moonlap's Vertigo. If you wanted to continue the ass-kicking, the amazing riffage, the fantastic music, then just pass over Benighted if you don't like it, and go right into Moonlap's Vertigo, because it's going to kick you square in the teeth, and it's going to keep you on this just incredible thrill ride of metal for over 10 minutes, or close to 10 minutes, should I say. It's a fantastic track, definitely a highlight of this album. But then it goes into another one, Face of Melinda. Once again, the titular character, Melinda. My God, it should not have been that hard to say. This is what happens whenever you're that excited to do an album review. The titular character, Melinda, is once again cited in this particular track. It's in fact a track that's dedicated to her. Take a listen to some of the tracks. I mean, she's not exactly being represented in a very positive light in some of these. And conceited pain and crumbling mirth, a harlot of God upon the earth, found where she sacrificed her ways, that hollow love in her face. Almost like saying that this particular person had found wrong in her life prior to finding the love, which is of course potentially Mikkel. This is widely considered to be one of Mikkel's most personal releases, and is it any reason to wonder why? I mean, consider songs like this. How many times do you see him reference directly a female's name, so to speak? I mean, we do see in other Opeth releases, such as Forest of October, or Dirge for November, things like that they will definitely cite months, April Ethereal being another. However, how many do you see that cites a woman, so to speak? So this is certainly something that advances that idea that this is a concept release. So let's say, for example, you don't like Face of Melinda either, even though there's a harder edge to it at the end. Just skip the damn song, go to Serenity Painted Death. Good fucking Christ. Yet another track that's brutal, that's in your face, that just kicks you on your ass and keeps you down there and just keeps punching, as though Opeth is facing you in an MMA fight and you don't have a fucking chance. Best way to really describe it. Serenity Painted Death definitely contains some of Mikkel's more angry and just destructive moments on this particular release, and it's something that is very easy to really see. You gotta love this track. This is an amazing track. This is one that definitely is another highlight. But then it goes in the White Cluster, the finale on this particular release. Yes, yet again, it's a very shortened release as far as track numbers are concerned. We're going from 9 to 7. So this is definitely a band that's not going to show consistency whenever it comes to number of tracks. You're going to get anywhere between 5, 6, 9, or 10, all depending on the release. There's some that's going to stay with a 5 and, the shorter end. Another good example is Deliverance. Or you're going to have the ones that are going to have, 8, 9 tracks, such as My Arms, Your Hearse, and Blackwater Park. Just really just depends. And once again, White Cluster is kind of the finale of this whole entire thing. And once again, it's another fantastic track. I mean, You want to talk about kicking ass. You want to talk about having a lot of elements to it that's just impossible to describe in one singular sentence. White Cluster definitely fits very, very well. Why is this my favorite Opeth album of all time? There's something about each and every track that speaks to me. There's something about each and every track that definitely makes me want to listen to the whole entire album. If I start with one track that's on the latter part, I want to listen to the whole damn thing. I want to go back to track number 1. If this is something where if I'm listening to my music on random and White Cluster plays, I say fuck listening to music on random and I start with number 1 and go to number 7, do it all over again. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those releases where it never gets old. And this is one of those releases where after doing this review, I want to listen to the damn thing again. Whenever you have a release that sticks into your mind like that, that really does this to you, it is not hard to find out or discover why it's my favorite release by this band of all time. It's not that hard of an argument to make. Now, is this one where it blows all of their other albums out of the water for me? Absolutely not. As I said, Blackwater Park would certainly be a close second, with My Arms Your Hearse being a close third. In reality, this is a list that's probably ever shifting. However, these three, as I said, from album number 3 to album number 5 of Opeth's catalog, these three are definitely dead set, especially Still Life being on top. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. Blackwater Park is a tremendous release in order to adore, and it's one that I certainly recommend to have your adoration. However, for me, it's Still Life. It will forever be Still Life, and the only way that it will be dethroned will be if something that they release in the near future or in the distant future is able to dethrone Still Life. However, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. I wish them the best of luck. But if any band can do it, Opeth is it. But now we're going to get into album number 5, which is kind of the closing of this trilogy of my top 3 favorite albums of the Opeth catalog. So stay tuned for Blackwater Park.